Hello and good evening, good afternoon, and in some places, good morning. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, on the left-hand side of your screen, maybe it's the right for you, this is an amazing panel. We have a lot to get into. We're covering two topics, one of which was, of course, generated by Idle Sloth himself. And I say that because he put out a tweet basically putting into chronological order what Xbox, Bethesda, Activision, and Blizzard are releasing for Xbox this year. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you it's industry changing. There is literally so much content coming to Xbox that it doesn't even seem real. We will show you that list in real time. But before we get into that topic, which is, of course, going to be the second half of the show, we got to talk Palworld. Because you say to yourself, well, Boom, you've been talking about Palworld all week. Why do you want to keep talking about this? Because it's a phenomenon. Because it's an Xbox console exclusive. Because Xbox Korea did something intelligent, something super incredible, and they are now bundling this indie game that's in preview with every Series S that they sell, and apparently it's flying off shelves. The question is, how come Xbox America and Xbox Japan haven't got on board? And of course, well, this particular part of this topic is going to be something that Hargeet's going to run wild like Hulk Hogan in the 90s when he's ripping off his shirt and beating the heck out of everybody in the ring. Is there an Xbox tax? Well, you kind of wonder if that is starting to reek its ugly head, because the gaming media, the frauds, the jerks, the people that we don't really pay much attention to, but somehow we do, are rallying around condemning this game. And that comes the way of Games Radar. That comes the way of Eurogamer and quite a few others. It's actually very, very disappointing that instead of championing an indie developer that made a game for $6.75 million, and on Steam alone, as of this evening, has generated $210 million on Steam. They have crossed over 2 million concurrent players. And the only thing in front of them right now to taking over the number one spot of all time is PUBG, sitting at 3.2 million players concurrent. I got to be honest with you folks. I think that this is going to be a changing of the guard. I think that this company has struck gold. And the fact that it is an Xbox console exclusive, and more than likely is going to stay that way, this is the I put it to this way, the potential of this game, and it proves it for me, proves my point for me, has it matching at least the Fortnites and the Apex Legends of these type of games. It has taken the world by storm. But before we get into introductions, a couple of congratulatory statements that I would like to make. One of which is our brothers, our very good friends over at the Iron Lords, who made their debut last evening, and they were presenters at the New York Game Awards, seeing Cognito, Sovereign, Addict, and of course, the bombastic King David up on stage looking so amazing. It was what true hard work looks like. Seeing them up there all dressed up, seeing them, taking pictures with Neil Druckmann, whether you like the guy or you don't, rubbing elbows with everybody in the community. You got to give these guys their flowers because they've worked real hard to get here. And kids, I'm telling you right now, you ever want to see where they were and where they are now, that is what hard work looks like. The second congratulatory comment I want to make is, of course, to the Longhouse Gaming Podcast. And of course, Supernova, Black Skellington, and of course, the host, Black Viking, three gentlemen who have skyrocketed to stardom within this community, have done everything right. They hit 1K, they became partnered with YouTube. They have did something amazing. The first full year of them being able to accept channel memberships and super chats. Well, folks, they're donating every dollar at the end of the year to the Boys and Girls Club so they can buy Xbox swag. Talk about doing
Nice.
it right. I mean, just amazing. And of course, the third and final congratulatory statement I want to make is one of our panel members here, Luke Lore. Not only is he a teacher, folks, not only is he a mentor, not only is he the tip of the spear when it comes to interviewing some of gaming, who's. He just sat down with, of course, Cliffy B. He had a chance to sit down and interview Cliffy B. Got some really big, some nuggets out of him. If you don't know who Luke Lore is, if you don't know who Insipid Ghost is, well, you should if you're a fan of this channel because he helped continue and grow the Xbox Factor podcast, and he's back tonight. Luke Lore, welcome, brother. How you feeling?
I'm great. Honored to be back hanging out with you. I've been looking forward to this all day. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure and an honor. Obviously, we'll give you all of his deets, as the kids like to say, at the end, so you can get over and follow him and check out his podcast, which is known as the Xbox Expansion Podcast. You should definitely be checking it out on Spotify, but we'll give you all of the details at the end. Hargeet Chani, in the green room, you kind of threw up the horns and was like, can we just admit finally that there's an Xbox tax? Well, we're going to get into why you think that is, but how you feeling?
Good. I haven't actually been able to talk just about the direct, right? That was last Thursday, so it's the first time I get to talk about it on your show. So we'll get into a little bit of that, and of course we have Palworld that took over. It's been an interesting week for Xbox. An interesting week for everyone, I suppose, but we'll see how it goes, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where Xbox and Microsoft seem to be 10 steps ahead of everybody in the industry, right? Microsoft just became once again a $3 trillion company, outpacing Apple. And I think that's another reason why you don't see them going third party with their own big games, because they don't really need it. They're making money hand over fist. You have your direct that does an amazing thing, shows off some really powerful IP coming this year, including Indiana Jones, which we keep seeing more tidbits.
Two zeitgeist moments in the last week. Two.
I
love it. Two.
Yes. And then, of course, no shadow drop. No shadow drop, right? No special surprise outside of, well, Square Enix shows up, right, as a partner. Maybe it's the prelude to something a little bit more down the line. We don't know, but right now they're partners. And Visions of Mana is rumored to be dropping into Xbox Game Pass, the first Mana game on Xbox. It's a really big deal. And then, of course, zeitgeist moment too. Palworld is just exploding on the scene. But One Bad Mother, you seemed quite disturbed, if I may say so, in our DMs after a certain, conglomerate kind of went out and did something dumb, made an article about Palworld that makes no sense. We will get into that, but how are you feeling, sir? It's great to have you back.
Yeah, man. Oh, well, first of all, it's great to be on with everybody. Thanks for the invite. Really look forward to talking with everybody here today. I'm sure we'll have some interesting perspectives. But who would have thought? Who would have thought that really the thing that 343 needed to do all along to raise Halo to the top of the charts is make the Spartans look like Pokemons. So, but we learned something new this week, and maybe the rest of the industry did as well. So. A lot, I have a lot of different thoughts when it comes to some of these topics, and that, we'll get into that. Probably a little bit different than, my mind always goes to weird places on this, but we've had a lot of conversations over like how some things are changing in the industry in the past. And I think that a lot of what we've seen in the past couple of weeks kind of signals that, right? Between everything from leaks to what's actually come out in shows and what's happening with the game really all kind of ties to a lot of greater trends. So look forward to kind of delving into that and continue to tell people I told you so, but I'll get into that in just a minute.
Yeah, so folks, real quick, before we move forward anymore, the game on your screen is the evolution of what Vampire Survivors is. It is called Army of Ruin. It is $7.99 on Xbox. Now, I believe it's on other platforms as well, but obviously, I bought it on Xbox. It is
that's my game. Boom.
Yeah. And you were talking about that, Luke. This is addicting AF. That's all I can say. It is for $8. The amount of content is staggering. There are over 100 different weapons, spells, characters to unlock, levels to unlock. It's stunningly, like I said, just keep watching. You're gonna see I got two plus hours of it, and that's only what I recorded. I started playing maybe 3 days ago, and it's the only thing I want to play. Like, it is so freaking good. It is a 3D version of Vampire Survivors with a Dungeons and Dragons, skin over it. It's just phenomenal. I probably sold about 10 copies, mind you. I don't get a dime for this. The developer does not know who I am, but I had to put this game out there because it is so much fun, and it is, again, it's just an evolution of Vampire Survivors, which I hope that he starts to that the next one goes from like 8-bit to like 16-bit. I don't think he has to do 3D models. I don't think he has to. I'll take a 16-bit sequel, and I can't wait for it because Vampire Survivors is one of my favorite games of last year. Still one of my favorite games today. But Hargi, let's you know what? I'm going to start first with you because we didn't get a chance to talk with you. Obviously, the direct happened last week, and it just seems that Xbox is on the upswing, right? Like I sent you I don't know if I got a chance to send it to you because you're not on Twitter. Good for you. There was a list that was made, that was a tweet that was done by a good friend of the community. Actually, I would dare say great friend of the community, Idle Sloth. And the tweet basically was Xbox lineup for 2024. And in this, first of all, it's about 2 pages long, honestly. And he has detailed here Xbox Game Studios releases, which of course is Hellblade 2, Avowed, Microsoft Flight Simulator 24, Aura History Untold, and Towerborn. Now that's Xbox Game Studios. Xbox updates to ongoing games, of course, Halo Infinite is part of that, Sea of Thieves, Forza Motorsport, Minecraft. Now he went into ZeniMax releases, Indiana Jones, obviously, the Elder Scrolls Gold Road, Starfield Shattered Space, and mod support, and of course, the Elder Scrolls Castle, which is a mobile game, right? Then he goes on to say there's updates for Fallout 76, updates for Fallout 4 for the next gen. Then he goes and he has these, then it gets out of control, where Blizzard has updates to ongoing games, Diablo 4, Vessel of the Hatred, Overwatch 2, Hearthstone. They have the World of Warcraft, the World Within, and of course the World of Warcraft Classic Cataclysm of for upgrades. Gulf War, Call of Duty, of course, all of the back catalog dropping at the Game Pass. And then he goes and he drops about 30 games that are coming to Xbox Game Pass. And it's probably for me, on a surface level, considered a legendary tweet because yes, a lot of these games are going to PlayStation, and some of them may even go to Nintendo, and they're going to be on PC. But if you are an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, you're getting all of this and a bag of chips for your subscription service. It's industry changing. It really is, and you know, you know what? We'll open up with this. I know I was going to do it in reverse orders, but you know what? Let's talk Xbox because that's what people are here to talk about. What are your thoughts on the show, and what are your thoughts on their roadmap for 2024? Because, like I said, I'm not trying to stoke the fires. You know, we don't do console war stuff here, but when you look at this list, Hardy, and I didn't even read the games. I literally just said there's 30 games. We know there's 41 games already announced for Xbox Game Pass. That's confirmed. Sony, we're hearing now, is remastering some older games from PlayStation 4, and that's all they continue to do. There is no roadmap. This seems to be a lopsided fight.
Yeah, for the next couple of years, it might be. Now, so let's just first go over the Direct. Okay, so the good. I liked all of it. The game that I went in with the least amount of enthusiasm, Hellblade, was still the one with the least amount of enthusiasm. It is the one with the release date. That's cool. But it is where it is. Let's just get the game. Thankfully, it's short. That's actually a good thing because it means I'll actually probably play and finish it. It just isn't one that I'm overly interested in. The Indiana Jones, like I've kind of known that the game was going to be first person. I've dropped hints, but I couldn't say it. But okay. I've kind of known that it's good. So that did not surprise me in any way. I would have loved it to be third person, but I'm like, I'll go along with this. But I already know it's going to be first. I'd heard that a long time ago, and I just kept my mouth shut about it. But so it was not a surprise that it was first person. But look, the game showed well. I think it showed pretty well. And that, not the Direct, but that was the zeitgeist moment. Indiana Jones is a known IP, and it pissed people off that it's exclusive to one platform that they don't like. And you got a lot of stupid comments out there, like second-class gamers, that I'm sure it was in jest, but
no,
really?
I gotta be honest. I don't know John Campea personally. I used to watch his show religiously until he became a pompous ass, and I think that's because of his popularity. He obviously used to be with Collider many years ago. Collider collapsed in on itself. He started his channel, and like a lot of startups that I follow, he rocketed to stardom. And to be honest with you, I think he's smelling his own farts, to be honest with you, because I think to go out, even to say it in jest, and he didn't even say like, oh, I'm just joshing, right? He literally on his live stream said that Xbox gamers are second-class citizens.
It's not my fault they're second-class gamers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who's a second-class gamer? Where's Palworld in your system? Oh, I guess you don't have that. Oh, you don't have the deal. Oh, it sucks to be you.
It's disappointing. He's supposed to know better. John is a paraprofessional. He's a media personnel. He's looked upon by a lot of people. To say something like that and mean it is kind of gross. So he lost a lot of fans over that, I would imagine. But please continue.
And I mean, that like directly just tells you, come on, there's a bias against Xbox. I mean, come on, right? Like he just outright admits it. Like, come on. Anyway, so that was cool. Square Enix showing up as the odd game that comes in, right? The shadow game, right? That not drop, but you know they talked about a Square Enix game, Visions of Mana. That was kind of cool that they showed a Square Enix game.
And it looks really good, by the way.
It does answer an interesting question, right? We were thinking, is this a first-party type thing? You know, it says first-party IPs only. Apparently not, right? Because this is a third-party game that's going to be going everywhere. So it can be anything, right? So the Dev Direct can be anything. Okay, so that's kind of answered, unless they're looking to tell us that they bought Square Enix. But that's a different story. We'll just leave that aside. And then, you know, they had a follow-up on Avowed. So Avowed looked pretty good. And then they had a follow-up on Avowed. And it's looking pretty good. I like it. It looks like it's going to be fun. There might be something on like the graphics not being the greatest, but again, I went in telling people don't expect it to look like, you know, the best thing in the world. It's not intended to be that. Just take it for what it is. It's going to be a fun game, right? So just take it for what it is. And I still think it looks pretty good, but I like those kind of games. So I'm looking forward to that. So I think the Dev Direct plus that extended piece, good job, great. And then Palworld happened. That's the second zeitgeist moment where it's pissing people off that it's, you know, this is not a fault, by the way, of the development studio. I'm sure they'd be happy to put it on the other platforms. They just don't offer a preview program. That's their problem, right? So Steam has had a preview program for a very long time, and Xbox has a preview program,
and PlayStation does not.
And they expanded that. Remember last year or the year before, they added this demos that you get in Game Pass. What that was this. It was like, let's pay these developers to be able to do the preview game and put it in Game Pass, right? And that way they have some money to actually create the preview, and then we can put it in Game Pass and they can get some response back and continue to make the game better. That was what they were talking about. And so this is a facet of what Game Pass is adding to the industry, saying, hey, we can fund a small team that's trying to make a game that's in a sort of demo mode, a preview mode, and still give them something so that they can put it in Game Pass and they can get some revenue out of it, right? While they're still trying to finalize the game, right? So, and that's where Palworld is, right? It's a preview game. It's not final. They're telling you it's not final. It's from an indie developer that started with like 10 people. And they made it as much as, you know, as far as they could, and they said, yeah, this isn't looking as, you know, as fun as we were expecting, so they had to expand. I think they went up to like 30-40 people, whatever it is, and
you know, 50 people is what it is now,
and spent some, you know, a couple more years, and now you have what you have, right? And for some reason, this is killing the world that there's a little indie studio that can be like, look, this is how these like blow up games come out. Like Vampire Survivors, how many people worked on that? 400? No. It's not
one dude made that game.
You have to just this is the model. If you want to make a game that's going to like change things, this is the model. It's very hard to tell an established AAA studio that makes single player campaign games to go make something like Palworld. That's just not their DNA. It's just not what they do. And if it pisses you off, too bad, right? So Naughty Dog, who could not create their multiplayer game, they canceled it. Put out their remaster, whatever, of remake or whatever the heck it is of Last of Us Part 2, and Palworld totally overshadowed it. Okay, right. Is that Palworld's fault? Is that you know, Pocket Pair? Is that the name of the
Pocket Pair? Yes,
yeah. The studio. It's not their fault. That's people already played your game. That's the way it is, and this is just new. And it's apparently it at some point becomes pretty fun, right? So, and for some people who don't like it, they don't like it. That's fair, right? This is not up to 20 million, 40 million, whatever. But 7 million in a few days is freaking amazing. You just got to give it to them, right? It may rise to that level. It may fizzle. We don't know, right? But for what they did, it's pretty cool for a small studio to do something like this. Why there's such animosity, I don't get why there needs to be animosity. I hear the AI thing. Well, first, like every studio uses AI, so shut up. I don't want to hear that crap. Like, don't tell me you don't use AI. You're
talking about that was the developer from Naughty.
Yeah, just shut up. I don't want to hear that crap. Like, all of you use AI, so just stop that excuse.
Yeah,
just get over it, right? If they use it. By the way, you're supposed to disclose that if you put it on Steam. So I don't know if they do use it or not because it's not disclosed as having used AI. But if they do, I don't care. A small team of people put a game out that people are having fun with. That's the way it is, right? So they still hired 40 people or whatever, right, to expand to 50, and they made from an indie studio. They made this game, right? So I think it's doing what it should. It's cool. That's great. The question is, should it like be expanded, right? It seems to be sort of a Pokemon meets Zelda meets Ark meets something else, right? Valheim, like a whole bunch of games combined. Should Microsoft try to do something with that? Well, I don't know. It's an interesting question, right? This studio just got an influx of a lot of money, way more than they've seen before.
Yes.
Should Microsoft try to approach this and say, let's make it something that's a permanent exclusive, or 100%. Try to buy it? Maybe. What you could do with this, it's not an E-rated game. It's not even rated yet, right? But let's say you could get it at the sort of teen or maybe lower, right? Maybe PG level. That kind of makes it a good family-friendly game that Microsoft kind of needs, right? So it depends on just how
1000%, sir.
right. So if they want to go that far, then you could take this as sort of a Pokemon equivalent for what Nintendo brings to the market. You could say, hey, this could be what Microsoft brings to the market. And happens to be in their service. By the way, I'm still happy with this thing going to other platforms. In fact, put it on Nintendo. Put it on Nintendo and go and get those players to say, hey, Xbox is making a game that's pretty close to what you get with Pokemon, except it costs half as much and it has continuous content updates, right? So that could just be something that's of interest to them. Just like Minecraft, say, hey, this is an Xbox thing. And maybe attract people over to the Xbox ecosystem, right? But having something like this as a Xbox game could be pretty cool. It's up to them to take it that way, but it has to be more than a game then, right? If you really want to go against something like Pokemon, well, Pokemon's a toy, it's a card, right. It's a it's a cartoon, it's on and on and on, right? They would have to kind of do that level. They'd have to make more games. It would have to go mobile. It would have to go beyond just console, right? So they'd have to figure all that out. Now that studio could do it. They could just do it themselves. But that's tough for them. And I also got this feeling from the guy who runs that studio that he wants to make quick games and move on to the next thing. And I don't know that it's a good idea to lock him down to this. It probably is a good idea to let him just go make the next game and make a sub team that goes and continues this thing, right? And that's the kind of scale thing that they would just have to figure out. Could that little studio do it? Sure, right? It's just Microsoft has scale already. They could help them with that part of it. How do you scale this up? How do you bring it to the next level? How do you create the partnerships to go create toys or cards or whatever, right? That kind of thing that Microsoft could bring to the table. They've already helped them make the game. That's why it was in Game Pass. That's how this thing was made, right? They needed more money, made that deal. That's how they were able to make it happen. Fair enough. Does Microsoft go further? I think they should look at it, right? They should definitely analyze it. It makes sense. But they have to look at the numbers and see how the growth continues or doesn't continue. Because they sold so much, it does also increase the value. So that's just something they'll have to figure out as far as that potential for partnering or acquiring or whatever. But it would be another Japanese studio. That'd be kind of cool for them. But either way, that was incredible to see. And then the reactions for both Indiana Jones and for this from those on the other platforms. And this one, Nintendo got pretty interesting. Not Nintendo, the company, but Nintendo, the fan base and the media. They kind of came after this. And, there's some level of potential for it to be similar in ways to some other games, but that's common practice. Like a lot of games are similar to other games. There's genres, right? Like a fighter is a fighter. Are they all exactly the same? No. Are there similarities? Yeah. You can look at a lot of
what's on your screen right now. Is this not literally Vampire Survivors just with a D&D skin in 3D?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right.
Looks like the sequel.
Right. It is what it is. So you can't just automatically dismiss it. Now, if Nintendo were to bring a suit, okay. But they're not. And there's just levels of reality of what you could take Genshin and say, did it borrow from Zelda? Probably. You say this game, like Palworld borrowed from Zelda. A lot of games do. Okay, does that make them a direct ripoff? Like if you're copying the names of characters, the story arc of characters, well, yeah, you're starting to get into that problem. Okay, they look similar. A lizard looks like a lizard. Okay, a fox looks like a fox. Can Nintendo actually copyright a fox? No, not really, right? There's just realities to this. So at some point, you just have to go with it. We'll see if there's anything that's valid from that. I doubt it, right? But we'll see, right? Nintendo has so far not done anything, and they just let it go.
Actually, the only thing they did do, Hargeet, is there was a modder who released a patch of Ash and was charging people, and obviously Nintendo found out. That is obviously a fail. You can't do that. And that's obviously illegal. Yep. So there was a cease and desist order that had to be taken down. But that's fair. That's right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. So overall, the week has been pretty good for them. On the other side, the week has been kind of okay for the other side. It's been they don't have as many good news pieces. They do have The Last of Us.
Actually, has been terrible news, and I'm gonna tell
And-
you why. Hargeet, one, Hazardor Gaming, who is of course on top of everything on X, has semi confirmed that they are remastering Until Dawn for the PlayStation 5.
Yep.
Another remaster.
Yep.
I mean, listen, Until Dawn, phenomenal game. Some of the best graphics on the PlayStation 4, to be honest with you. Probably still one of the best looking games. I don't necessarily know it needs a remaster. How much that's going to cost, who knows? Is it going to be a $10 upgrade? Who knows? And then, of course, no roadmap. Again, we keep saying it. There's supposed to be some sort of a direct on February 8th, is the rumor. The next Secret Super show. And of course, the thing that they got involved with, where they were going to acquire an Indian company for $10 billion.
Z,
and
right?
Obviously,
that failed.
And that failed.
And we'll see if there's a breakup fee issue or not.
Supposedly, the company is going to sue Sony for the breakup fee because it was Sony that broke up the deal, not them.
Right.
And now it's a big.
Yeah, we'll see where that goes. And maybe that frees up some capital. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. The bad from the Direct is, so I give it an 8. It was great. I think the Direct itself was great, 8 out of 10. But the release dates, that's a problem. Everything is kind of bunched. Look, I don't know if Indiana Jones is going to be released before fall, but it feels like it's going to be in the fall.
Right.
Or it's pushed out. All the other games are going to be fall, except Visions of Mana, which is already scheduled for the summer. That's not good, right? Because look, if you already got Fight Sim 2024, that has to come out sometime. Is that summer? So you're looking at, you've got Stalker, you've got Towerborn, right? That still has to come out. And all these games are bunching up at the end of the year, along with the potential for a new Nintendo console that's going to come out near the fall end of the year, right? And that's going to have its launch lineup of games. So everything bunched up in the fall, along with Call of Duty. How do you manage that? How do you put these games out there? What if Forza Horizon's ready? If Forza Horizon 6 is ready, how do you fit that in?
You don't.
I think they have too many games coming out.
You just don't. Yeah, it's too much.
And my fear is that, let's say Ara. Ara is already a very niche game. It's a 4X game. It's not going to get a lot of attention unless it has a little breathing room. And if you're going to put it out in the fall, along with all these other games, I mean, I was going to give it a chance, but I'll be very honest. If Indiana Jones shows up a week after that, I'm not touching it. I'm playing Indiana Jones.
Right.
Right. And they have to be very careful with that. So to me, you take Ara and you put it out in January of next year, February next year, give it breathing room and let people try it out, because it's just going to get drowned. If you're going to tell me like the Nintendo Switch 2, whatever that is, comes out mid-September, you're releasing Stalker the first week of September. When am I going to get to to Ara? I just won't get to it, because I will play Avowed and Indie before I touch Ara. But I'll still have all the Nintendo games to go through and everybody else's fall lineup game, right? I just think it's a bad idea to bunch everything up there. I get it. Release schedules are release schedules. I get that, right? But you got to be careful with that. Like a game like that is just not going to have a lot of in my opinion, breathing room. If you just put it along with everything else in the fall, I say move it out. Give it some breathing room somewhere in the winter spring time frame, where it can actually get some time frame from people to try it out. I'm not going to be able to play. I wanted to play it, but I'll just be honest. I don't think I'm going to get to it. There's too many other games.
You're meant to, but I don't think you're meant to. I think that's genuinely meant to be a very niche title
for that people. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, I don't think they're even worried about the even smaller number of gamers like yourself, where you're going to play this and all the other. I think it's just a different target demographic, and that's why it's less of a concern. If they were putting out Halo and Call of Duty overlapping, we'd have a problem. If they were doing Titanfall, Battlefield, and COD in a week, we'd have a problem. But I don't think Ara History Untold is meant to necessarily eat sales or be eaten by some of the other stuff that you listed. At least that's my theory.
Yeah, the thing I would look
think you're
at
onto something with that, Luke. Yeah, I agree.
Is Game Pass effect, right? The intent of the Game Pass effect is, hey, this game just like Palworld just dropped into Game Pass. What was your excuse to not try it? Was just, I have to download it. Okay. People downloaded it and it was fun. And it blew up, right? That's the thing you miss out on. Now, granted, it's not going to be on console. It's going to be on PC only. Still, it is a potential that 5 million players could just download and try it, right? But if you're going to compete with other games, that's my concern. It may just say only the people that are interested in 4X games will actually try it. Instead
the 4X
of
market is
a
just,
lot.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, is it the 4X market has notoriously struggled to expand beyond that which it is. Now, it's very popular to its gamers, but I do not anticipate a PC only 4X game needing to worry about the release dates of a crowded fall. I think it's going to know who and where, and I think Xbox did it a great service to put it in a developer direct and demonstrated.
Oh, the dev direct is absolutely good. Yes.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, what they did was they showcased to other developers that they are willing to put you on a stage if you work with them.
Indeed. Yep.
I think that's the bigger.
Now, Ara is, and this is something that's I'm not sure, but isn't Ara an IP that now Xbox owns, or is that really just?
I believe they own the IP. Yes, I'm pretty sure of it.
This is an Xbox game, not an Xbox studio.
Correct.
Right. But it is an Xbox game.
Yes.
So it makes
by definition.
Yeah. And so look, I think this is an opportunity for them to expand it. I get what you're saying, right? But then that's why it stays niche. It doesn't get a chance to expand. How many people played Palworld because it was just there? I hear all the time, Pokemon. I'm never going to touch that from so many players. But they tried this and loved it.
Because, well, it's more survival than it is Pokemon. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it is what it is, right? But
it is a part of it, but there's so much more to it. Where it has Mon-like characters. Yes, it absolutely does. And I think on the cover, like how I was sold the game was a Pokemon with guns. I'm in. What I didn't know is that, and like I said, shout out to so many people that reached out to me via DM, was like, boom, you can shut all those settings off. So I'm going to start playing it again. But I'm going to I'm not doing survival stuff. Like, I don't want to eat. I don't want my mons to eat. I just want to play the game, build a house, maybe capture a couple of pals and call it a day. Because I don't have time in the world to do it. So
and that's like, again, it could be fine if you want to keep it niche. That was my only concern with that, was the timing of everything is being squished together. We also don't know if other games are ready to go. And if they are, they might just have to be pushed out, right? If South of Midnight's ready or Clockwork Revolution's ready or something like that. And
we think that they are. I mean, they might just have to be pushed out. You know what's funny? We look back, Hargeet, to something that was said in 2022 that got a lot of people upset.
Yeah.
Matt Booty, obviously, aka Peaches, if you know, right? Was heard saying, we have so many games, we just don't even know where to put them. And obviously that was taken at the time where 2022, not such a great year for Xbox. And a lot of people were like, wow, how could he say that? What the heck does he know? What does, whatever. It turns out that, well, I don't know. He is running almost all of Xbox. So yeah, he kind of knows what he's talking about, but he got a lot of criticism for it. And now all of that is coming to fruition, where you bring up a great point. The fall, like I said, we don't know what they have planned from February to June. Like, we don't know what's happening.
We have Hellblade.
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, Hellblade is in May. That's correct. But I'm saying, like, they have to position other things around that.
Yeah, they do.
Right. And we don't know. Listen, One Bad Mother, I do want to go to you next, but you're going to run the gambit. So hold on for a second. Let me bring in Luke Lore. And because obviously it's just four of us, smaller panel. Hey, what happened to my footage? What are you chapping?
Just put me full screen. I'll make all kinds of faces.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening. It's loading, for the love of Joe.
Luke could bring in the ladies.
I'll get new gameplay. I don't know why it froze. But listen, Luke, let's bring you into the conversation.
Yeah, man.
I don't know which angle you want to come. You want to come at this from, because really this is kind of like one of those podcasts where there's literally so much going on. No matter what you talk about, people are going to be interested, whether it be Palworld, whether it be the Xbox Direct, because we haven't spoken about that. Indiana Jones first person, third person, the gaming media kind of like poo-pooing Palworld for a preview indie game. Like I just don't look. And what am I talking about? Because I had sent this to you. I did a tweet. Games Radar, who they sometimes enjoy putting foot to ass or mouth, whatever you ever want to put. They write Palworld isn't exactly an amazing game, and they go on to say this. It's almost embarrassing that Pokemon got upstaged by someone as sloppy as Palworld and a janky survival game carried by one good idea. Like, that sounds like someone, like, you're a teacher, you understand when someone writes something, if they're angry, that sounds like an angry person writing this. Like, are you a journalist or a knucklehead? That's just that's just one of them, because and I know that OBM is going to get into this because he was pretty annoyed by this. Eurogamer, I mean, they're a pretty big conglomerate. Is Palworld actually any good? Of course not. What? It's a preview indie game, dude. Like, seriously? I don't understand this. And of course, you go back to some of the devs. The Naughty Dog dev came out and said, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something fishy here. I know that they used AI to make this game, and, well, I'm just angry because no one's talking about mine. Now, I added the last part because obviously Hargeet made mention of it. The Last of Us 2 remake, or Last of Us 2 patch, because that's all it really was a patch, not really a remake. When you compare the screens, got overshadowed. It came out Friday, and no one's talking about it. No one cares about playing Ellie and guitars and Joel guitars. No one cares about that. Maybe the roguelite mode might be cool. That looks cool. But other than that, no one's talking about it. Here comes this indie Xbox console exclusive. That's anyone and everyone is talking about. And of course, it's breaking numbers on Steam. Luke, pick your path, brother. It's your show. You just run it how you want.
It's your show, and I'm honored to be on it. I will join OBM when he's ready to talk about the supposed theoretical and also evidence-based elements of Xbox tax or whatnot. I'll join him when he's ready for that one. Let's go with Palworld in general, kind of coupled with the news of the developer direct, and that covers a lot of different things. Xbox has, over the last 2 years, had some very successful, and actually I would say largely the Xbox Series S and X generation. We've seen some really great communication from them with only a few fumbles here and there. The developer direct is the second go at this format, which Tina Amini and co seems to be nailing down and getting right. It is because of the developer direct format and the ability to hear from developers that we are now hearing and seeing people get excited for things like Aura History Untold, who are outside of the 4X market, right? And I think that's a really good thing. So I think we need to credit Xbox immensely for this dev direct format. They did a great job, better so this year even than last, at showcasing some of the games and what they are. They had a tough problem in front of them, not at the developer direct, but last summer when they had to tell an audience what's Starfield, and Starfield is meant to be a 30 to 500 hour game, right? In Indiana Jones, they had to teach an audience what to expect from this typical style third-person climbing game that we know from Tomb Raider and Uncharted, but then from a developer who specializes in punching Nazis in first person. They had to teach an audience what that was. And I think they really managed to both capture the personal journey of the developers in these games, but also teach the viewers what they were. So on that front, as far as messaging, Xbox doing an excellent job there, and clearly building relationships with developers big and small by way of spotlighting Oxide and bringing in a Square Enix team that is notoriously PlayStation heavy in their audience. Cool. That's fantastic, and credit to them. Palworld, I think, has caught everybody off guard, and I hesitate for anybody ourselves included, in the creator categories, to those that would consider themselves journalists, and then everywhere that's in between of those things. To compare other games to Palworld is kind of like comparing other games to Fortnite. You're looking at the outlier versus the standard, the exceptions versus the rule. It's kind of like Taylor Swift, a millionaire telling you to go for your dreams. It's like, shut up, I'm trying to pay my rent. So there's a bit of like walk it back on some fronts. Palworld's not the end all savior of gaming. It's also friggin' dope and awesome to see a game with a small team have such success. Clearly the formula is desired. I heard what you said about Xbox Korea, and that's fantastic. They were able to move that fast. The market's a little bit smaller there than here. But you have to imagine bean counters are like, okay, how can we capitalize? Because no one could predict a Fortnite save the world failure and a Fortnite battle royale success. No one can predict Apex Legends will actually be well received because it's not Titanfall and Titanfall universe, and it's battle royale, but only 3 people. It's very different. Nobody can predict some of these success stories. Palworld is one, and the onus is now on Xbox to take the good moves that they've had in acquisitions, in creating a slate, and in developing a calendar that now has games filling different quarters with regularity, and saying, how do we make this game on the front cover of our box, or sell our box without costing all the work and all the developer hours and the promises we made to the people that are currently in our catalog? They've got a really awesome problem in front of them. And for anybody that's upset about Palworld's success, there was clearly a demand for it. And I would really encourage everybody that's mad at Eurogamer, Game Whatever, Joe Schmo with his internet website, wherever they are, if they're mad, they're doing it for engagement because that's what their business needs to thrive on. Clearly, there's a demand for the game. Rock on and play it. Have fun. Like, really, there's a demand for the game. This game is going to be a success. We poo-poo Fortnite all the time and Call of Duty all the time. It's the same game. It's this, it's that. Yo, it's got how many millions of players concurrently, regularly, all the time?
Yep.
All that hoopla about Modern Warfare 3. One, shout out to Cognito and everybody else that enjoyed the campaign along with me and wasn't afraid to say it. What up?
Dude, right there. I loved the freaking campaign. Sorry.
So did I. But for all the poo-pooing of Modern Warfare 3, it's a DLC. It's selling well, and this is the part that hurts. If we look in the mirror, when we get frustrated at seeing a lot of those remasters on the Sony side, they're still selling. So sometimes the narrative doesn't match the engagement and the excitement of the actual gamer playing the game. Mm-hmm. That was my lecture, my doctoral thesis. I welcome critique.
Well, Luke, you actually kind of like. By the way, I wasn't mad. I just thought one of the comments.
He was furious, guys. He was furious.
No, he told me. I thought it was one of the stupidest things for somebody who's covering the industry to say. He basically, his comment was, playing Palworld gives off the impression of playing a product designed to be sold rather than to be played. You feel like the market, and you'll be right.
Coca-Cola gives off.
Was he talking about PlayStation games? I'm sorry. What was?
No, it's like being mad that cheeseburgers are made to be eaten. Like, I don't know. Like, what are you upset about? Of course, it's meant to be bought.
Well, it's funny because you kind of hear from people that cover the industry, and you just think that they would know better about. It's like the things that I like, the developers do it for art. All the rest of this stuff that's competing with what I like is being done for money. And at the end of the day, these are all companies that are they're making games to make money. I mean, obviously they got developers that have passions and things like that, and that comes through. But every single company that's investing a lot of money into making something is hoping to make a lot of money back, a lot more money back, and that's why you get. Why do you think Sony's doing the remasters? It's not for the love of the game. It's for the money. And you know what? That's why Microsoft bought these companies too. So I always just find it funny that people kind of treat these companies sometimes like they're people, and kind of like get lost, and it's like in the business side of things, and it's like if you don't understand the business, then that's okay, like you're just covering what you like, but some of the stuff, some of the anger, it just feels like, I think in general though, there is just this sort of sense of change, and we can get into that. That's probably hijacking things, and I think that just like when change happens, people get frustrated, they get upset, and sometimes they don't know how to articulate it, and it just comes out all weird. It's just like, anybody who's been in a relationship with somebody gets mad at you, sometimes they say some weird shit and they just don't know how to articulate their overall feelings. And so the fact that you didn't take out the garbage is why you're the worst person in the world, right? So, I mean, we've all kind of been there. But anyways, Luke, let me turn it back over to you because I kind of hijacked that. But I wanted to jump in and just say that absolutely, that you were kind of on the point. I just thought that was a silly comment and I had to call it out. So but finish your thoughts.
It's becoming, well, I will conclude the thought and then welcome questions or comments, but like I think it's becoming more and more evident, and I don't say this as a diss, just more a comment on the changing of coverage, that there are fewer and fewer journalists in the gaming space.
Yeah,
as the rise when you look at the rise of content creators, and the audience of one does eat the other when you're looking at things like previews, like reviews, like coverage, like working with companies. And we also know that inflammatory comments, the loudest, the most bombastic, tend to get engagement. And in a world of ad revenue, engagement, clicks are money. And so rarer and rarer do I find myself getting upset at outlets, because fewer and fewer are the actual journalists. I remember, it was during the Insomniac hack that we seemed to get this big comparative narrative, and rightfully so, a wonderful comparative narrative to have, because you're covering one, not another. But I was never mad at an outlet like Kind of Funny, which is a private enterprise. I was disappointed and upset with GameSpot, IGN, or a few others that purported themselves to be journalists, and somewhere in between.
So IGN covered it, just to be fair. GameSpot, they had somebody in GameSpot that did not want to cover it. I think they ended up covering it anyway.
Good point.
But yes,
thank you.
Right. But IGN did 100% cover it.
Your point is well taken, and I'm glad, and thank you for the correction, because I don't mean to misspeak, but you're absolutely right. And the idea of, side note, split second coverage, that's dope. The B-roll.
I'm fixated as well.
So am I. I love that game. But the bigger point is, I don't get upset at the entities, and I use Kind of Funny as a great example, because they never claimed to be journalists. They are commentators. They're people in front of cameras. They are the Good Morning Americas. They are the oh my gosh, ESPN First Take. They're all that's what they are. That's what they do. Their job is to entertain, and they make their money as such. But when I see a journalist refuse on principle, a journalist's job is to report, give news, let the opinions be for the audience. So is there a tax? Maybe in some places, maybe not, but there is certainly a need to generate reaction.
Yeah, and there is.
I step back from that because that doesn't interest me, but I watch people thrive in it and have a blast, and I don't get upset with them.
Look, that's what we got to work on, because by the way, for people who don't know, Luke does amazing interviews. He's been doing them.
He sure does.
He's been doing them for a while. We need to get you some some pictures with like tears in them of of other of Jim Ryan or something, No, but that's what it really is, and you're onto something, right? And that's why I'm like I said, I'm not angry. I just sometimes it's got to the point with the SEO drives what they're saying, to the point where it's almost like it does feel like it's AI talking to you.
They're also just trying to make money, right? That's
what it is.
And by the way, it's not just games media; it's all media. The entirety of it has been usurped by content creators, right? It's just the way it is. There's a lot more engagement with people that you can relate to versus the talking heads.
Right, it's personality driven. It's it's SEO driven, and that's real. Oh, go ahead. What were you just saying?
I don't want to lose it. That's all. And I've interrupted you twice now, and I apologize. Mav made a great comment in chat. Fun speculation. Shout out to him.
Yeah, good dude. Great dude.
Wonderful human being, and has been a wonderful supporter of me and what I've worked to do. So shout out to him. He says, issue is Luke. The websites that do write these articles can have a negative impact on games. He's right that coverage can impact a game, but I think that's just part of it in a world of business, and I think that's part of it in a world of game makers. The onus is on Xbox to flip the narrative. That's their job, and developer directs are a good example of this. Marketing is a good example of this. Pricing is a good example of this. We have known, and even a few months ago in the same types of conversations, there was a wonderful quote by Larry Herb, is that they know they're not going to get the same credit or understanding that, say, Nintendo might when they roll out Mario. The onus is on Xbox and their subsidiaries to deliver so that any naysayers are either drowned out by the players or it doesn't actually impact
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the onus, but that's just make your Coca-Cola taste better. Don't use, you know what I mean? Like,
and
I think it goes even beyond that too, because, I was having a conversation like this with a buddy too, who's like really concerned about, the fact that it's like, well, like, that's not fair to the developers, this and that, like they like being because for whether you were a fan of Starfield or not a fan of Starfield, we've never seen a game that Metacritic in the 80s get that sort of, blowback for 2 months, because it was, you look up and down YouTube, every time somebody said this is the worst game of all time, the biggest disappointment of all time, they had like, hundreds of thousands, if not million, views. And I think that it just kind of plays into that. But one of the things I mentioned to him is that, well, and I think, maybe to summarize some of what you were saying there, Luke, it's like, don't hate the player, hate the game. And I think it's up to Microsoft, the now $3 trillion company, to figure out how to play the game. And, we just saw a game, Palworld, that learned how to play the game, right? This is a company, this is a video game that released that didn't go through your typical, industry channels for, getting attention, right? It skipped the reviewers pretty much because it's an early access or a preview game. It really somehow it was able to get the ball rolling on social media, and that is something that, really what it comes down to is these companies just have to figure out how to sort of manage those algorithms themselves. And I think, to your point, Luke, and actually maybe going back to the initial subject, bringing it back around, Boom, when you were talking about like looking at that lineup of games, and this is what I said to him too, like, at the end of the day, they just spent $69 billion, right? Like, if you're going to get taken down by a handful of like sites because they're SEOing and trying to keep the lights on, David, that's like not even David versus Goliath. That's something, that's a bigger mismatch. It's like, that's up to you and your teams to figure out how to manage all the resources you have to kind of overcome that. And when you look at what's going to end up happening here over the next few years and kind of how things are shifting, and I think this is also the other thing where some of this genuinely does come in when it comes to people that have been in, GameSpot, IGN for a long period of time. They see the industry changing. It used to be that everybody had to come through them. Game previews came through them. They told everybody what the next biggest game was, what the best games were, and people trusted them, where they're going to put their money. Nowadays, it is like, you don't know where the next big game is going to come in. Like, who the hell had this on their bingo card for 2024?
Nobody, dude. Nobody.
Like, well, one company did, and that company was Xbox. They did find
you're not wrong.
And one of the things to add to this is Game Pass eliminates the problem for Xbox, because you just try it.
Yeah,
you just try it, right? Redfall, people still tried it, right? They didn't like just take their word for it. They just tried it, and it sucked. So people uninstalled and went on. I know Boom liked it, but most people did not, right? And
I liked it.
The fair thing is, some people will in Game Pass, you just give it a shot. And I'm sure like 5 million people probably downloaded that game and said, all right, this ain't for me. Okay, cool. And then like, a couple 100,000 liked it. Okay, cool. Right. If the ratings don't matter, Sea of Thieves is a classic example of who cares what the rating is.
State of Decay 2,
Just download
a janky
right?
AA game.
Yeah, true.
Just download it.
It has over 10 million players. It's had 1 million updates.
By the way, I don't disagree with your assertion that they should just make lots of good games. And they have been doing that. They've been putting out a lot of 80+ games. So they've been doing that. But eventually it'll catch up and people will just have no option but to just accept that this is a big publisher that you have to pay attention to, and you can't just poo-poo them all the time, right? At some point, you just have to acknowowledge just the sheer
I do think you're
number
onto
of studios.
something, but
there's no way around it.
There is something. I'm going to put it to you this way, and maybe I get in trouble for saying this. It's fine. I'm a big boy. What you're going to see happen with the gaming media is they're going to do what they've always done. They're going to be cowards, and they're going to bend the knee. And then, of course, I'm not throwing everybody under the bus. We know the site. You know who I'm talking about. I don't have to name the names. But once PlayStation continues to keep dropping the ball, and Xbox is literally putting out 15 games a year, like it seems like that's going to be happening this year. Now, maybe, you don't consider an update to Halo, Sea of Thieves, Forza Motorsport, Grounded as important. Okay, I hear you if you don't, but they're also dropping Hellblade and Avowed and Indiana Jones and Aura. And we keep hearing that we might even see South of Midnight. You might see In Exile's game. We don't know, but all I can tell you is that the more that they keep trying to bury Xbox, they're going to essentially bury themselves, because there's going to come a point where they're going to have no choice but to talk about Xbox. And not everything is going to be a Starfield where it's controversy. And it's crazy. I mean, folks, please, by all means, we got 700 people here. I don't think I'm making this up. I don't think Hargeet's making this up. Don't you find it almost hilarious that every time Xbox does something amazing, and Starfield, maybe it's not your bag, but that is an amazing experience. And I think what happens after you beat it with the numerous new game pluses, how the story could logistically change in such a way that it shouldn't work, but somehow it does. And then obviously they just keep doing the directs. And this direct was, in my opinion, it was flawless. I thought it was, it for me as a fan, it did everything I needed to do and even gave me a bag of chips. And then Palworld comes out, right? There's no shadow drop. This comes out. And I know that it's exploding on Steam. 7+ million copies sold, 2 million concurrent players. There's a good chance it's going to beat PUBG and take over the #1 spot. And understand, that's of all time. That's not, you understand the ramifications of that. I find it incredibly suspicious, OBM, when you continuously see the gaming media pile on the rabbit, so to speak, when it comes to Xbox. Because look what the media did to Xbox deservingly in 2022, right? They basically released hardly any major games. No, all the AAA games were moved out. They showed up, they limped into the Game Awards and showed an Xbox Game Pass ad, and even the Xbox players gave them the business as they deserved, right? 2023 comes out, Xbox Game Pass leads by giving us value that is ridiculous, right? We went over that many shows before, how much money was put into Xbox Game Pass worth of games. And on top of that, they delivered in first party. Sony, listen, they had Spider-Man. Okay, I'm enjoying it, folks. I'm not going to apologize for having fun with it, but it was one game. And now we're in 2024, and all we keep hearing is that they're going to be doing remasters. Where is the media to put them on blast? Because they're in the pockets. I don't know. Listen,
better for all these people that are complaining about Palworld being a copy. Don't tell me Foam Stars isn't a freaking copy of Splatoon.
It's carbon copy. It's just, it's the truth. And again, I said that, I think I said that on Monday's show. I said, for the same group of PlayStation rah guys and gals that were like, oh, I actually saw someone threatening people, if you don't play foam stars, I'm blocking you. Like, okay, I mean, that's weird. I don't know. I don't kind of understand that energy, but okay, fine. That's how you feel. You want people to play multiplayer games. But that's a copy. That's a logistic copy of Splatoon, and people are championing on it, right? The gaming media. Oh, I can't wait to play this. It looks amazing. It's a copy.
So Boom, one of the things and maybe this is going to be controversial too, but I think it goes back to, one of the points Luke was making. A lot of it is just, driving for clicks, or the SEO basically is what that is. And that's really the machine that's kind of behind a lot of this stuff. We saw, we've seen narratives flip-flop based on what's really going to get the engagement. I think that they're playing around right now. Palworld's the biggest thing, and they're trying to figure out, how can I write another thing about this? And sometimes the negative thing because it's not on Nintendo or PlayStation, you have that base that's kind of curious what that is. I think the negative SEO is probably going to drive a lot of that, just because of where those audiences are out there. But here's the thing that, maybe a lot of people in the community may disagree with. I really don't think that whatever's happening there is really worth the energy for very much longer. I understand it does seem like it impacts a lot short term, but just like we were kind of just talking about, to begin with, you look at the roadmap, right? Microsoft has never had that sort of roadmap before. No company has had this sort of roadmap before. And we got off of a period of, a year and a half where, we watched, kind of the demise of Halo, and it's made a comeback. But, for about a year, it felt like we had every week there was something negative about 343. We went a year without any, big AAA, first party games from them. Then you had the Redfall incident. You had all the bad energy that came from ABK. And I think they were laying low and playing dead, basically, through the whole ABK trial, because that was the focus. And they allowed that energy and that snowball to kind of build up. And before that, they did have some positive energy when Halo first came out, and before that with Forza Horizon. And now it is like that. I think a lot of outlets have figured out that this has kind of been working for us, and they're going to continue to do it for a little while. It doesn't really matter, because you kind of look at where the future of like the discovery is going. It's not through that. It's, us old school gamers look at that stuff, and we usually know better anyways. We usually know what we like by this point in our ages. We're kind of set in our ways. The new age of gamers, when I look at like my kids, when I look at my girlfriend, her son who's 19, and his friends, they don't go to like sites and Metacritic and look at list wars and to decide what console. They basically look at streamers. My son was a few years ago was playing Hello Neighbor, which is the most garbage ass game I've ever seen in my life, because his favorite streamer was playing it, so he wanted it. So it's stuff like that. That's what's like driving them, and this like kind of where we're going. It really is. It's TikTok. Like we look at High on Life, that had 7 million players at one point, like after a few weeks after it came out, and it's because it blew up on TikTok. People were sharing some weird clips from the game there, and it's just a different age. And I think that spending too much energy on it, like I like to like laugh at some of the like that's why when I tagged you with that, I'm like, this is like one of the dumbest comments I've ever heard from somebody who's in that in this industry. But at the same time, I like what Luke's saying, it's probably right. It's like that was probably hit all the keywords to get the clicks. And you know what, I'm looking at it actually, and it's got a lot of attention. It's got a lot of views right now. So, I mean, it's working. But I think that's kind of where what I'm really interested in seeing what's going to happen here is, you look at that roadmap, you look at the games they showed and what's coming up this year. They're going to be in a situation to do what Nintendo's always done, which is, hey, we have this game finished, but we don't think right now is the best window. Let's save it for sometime next year, right? Like they sandbag games all the time, and plot out the release schedule so they don't have big gaps. What happens when you do that and you have Game Pass? What happens when every 2 months, 2 to 3 months, you're releasing a game, and now millions of people can go and engage in it on Game Pass. What happens when you bring in all of these different audience, different gamers to that ecosystem, or make it, bringing them in through these conversations, and now they're getting a chance to, like you were talking about earlier with Ara, like maybe expand and sample something that they wouldn't have. By the way, Civilization has over like 50 million copies sold by the time. So for, it's niche to us, but it's not it's not in terms of that
Correct.
genre is pretty successful on PC.
Yeah.
And I think that game
Do you think Ara will do that well? Do you think it has enough? Because like Civ has been around, right?
It depends on the PC gamer. I don't know what the PC gamers think of it. I think it's been in some sort of early access, but I haven't heard much.
I don't think so. Has it?
Or I think maybe it's just like in some alpha.
No.
I don't know. It's some tester. Like they were talking about that during the direct. Remember they said they were getting feedback, so they have some gamers that they're getting feedback from.
Testers, right?
One of the feedback was the Cougars, like they kept eating everybody. So.
Well, that's internal testing, but yeah.
But yeah, that stuff's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And you know what? They could put that in early access. Not even, hey, we're not even going to put it out there for official, for reviews. Let's do what we did with Grounded.
It's something they've done before. Yeah, it's a great program.
Done. Yeah, like let's just put it out, get some feedback, and by the time it does officially release, like Baldur's Gate 3, like Palworld, like these games, it can,
like Grounded, same thing.
Yeah, can evolve and based off of that. And like I said, there's a lot of people out there. It's a different world now, and I just think that I think because it is a different world, there is also going to be genuine concern from people that have been in this industry for a while, have been covering this industry for a while, because they might be, the people are going to other places now. They aren't the only place, right? And you can just release a game and say it's early access and charge for it, and people will pay for it and talk about it. And you see Palworld getting high reviews. By the way, I've not played it. I spent 15 minutes and then I decided I needed to go back to Prince of Persia. But, I do see that.
Well, I haven't started it yet. I got to finish Prince of Persia first. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so good. The game's so good.
Phenomenally good. Yeah.
It is really, really good. Sorry, I had to throw it in there somewhere today because that is a really good effing game. It's the best game Ubisoft has made in a few generations, by the way.
I would agree.
Player game.
Yeah.
So, since Splinter Cell, in my opinion.
I want to touch on something.
Go ahead, Luke. I've been talking for a while.
I want to touch on something you said about the TikTok and about the front page, and at the risk of an awkward moment of self-promotion, when I talked to Cliffy B, one of the things that we discussed were his failures, things that he didn't do right, things that he didn't do well, how subscription services have changed rolling out a game from Gears 1, Gears 2, Gears 3, which they successfully did. And he said the biggest thing now is that you need to be on the front page of Twitch or your game is dead. And I think that's in some ways and quite true in others, right?
Yeah.
And some companies build ways in for Twitch to gain the audience, and that's a good example of Twitch drops. And the comparative things that exist on Kick and YouTube. But also you see some companies try to force that, Suicide Squad being the most recent, trying to get Shroud and some of these big guys to play a game that they clearly have no interest in. And there's I don't know who XQVC something or another is, but a Yakuza game, and that was this like disaster apparently. And so there is a clear onus of chasing not just the Game Informer cover, but really the front page of the streaming channel that's the biggest. And I think that's where you see your success in games. But I appreciate everybody on the panel that's called out the times that I stuck launch well and then gained its audience. Sea of Thieves being a great and wonderful example, a better example I would point in the industry. State of Decay 2, absolutely phenomenal. I'm Grounded, launched in early access, small, but it was on Twitch and it was on these smaller video services at the time. I don't think it was TikTok at the time.
And even Xbox gamers were making fun of that.
I have
got revealed, by the way. Like was it. I'll keep going, but yeah, I mean it's just crazy.
Why wouldn't you? You have the studio that did Fallout New Vegas and does all these great, and then suddenly you're playing Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, early access edition. Why wouldn't you mock it until you play? But what catches fire is just sometimes the strangest thing. I teach middle school, and we give them laptops and they hack them and figure out ways to go around any block. It's cool, if we're being honest. But what are they playing? Fall Guys, Roblox. Roblox is their jam. And I'm like, this is the ugliest piece of trash. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. They're having a blast. And that's the bigger thing, right? Like Among Us. Among Us is a stupid game. It's so weird. And yet it's so addictively fun for how many people? Fun and video game success is not a matter of pixel count.
Yes, I agree.
Or IP. It can be.
Yes.
I need to piggyback on that as soon as you're done. No, that's an awesome point, Luke.
Please go for it.
Because I think that's the other thing that is, if we're trying to say, let's step back and go, okay, why are some of these people genuinely upset, whether it's media or whether it's gamers too? And you think about like our age, right? We grew up and it was like, oh my God, and I remember the chills I got landing on Silent Cartographer and Halo, and like how wowed I was by the lighting and Splinter Cell the first time I saw that. These kids are different. They really aren't as captivated. Like I'm kind of amazed when I like my son walks by and I'm playing something. Like I decided to give Red Dead 2 another shot not too long ago, and my son walks by. He says, it's like he's playing Roblox.
For them, that's normal, right? They grew up when that's just available, right? We grew up when games started with Arkanoid and
and I think that is making some people nervous because we just got off of the Insomniac leaks, right? We saw all that stuff. And we see how, we've heard Sean Layden say it. We've heard it from other people in the industry, how unsustainable the AAA game is, especially AAA single player, where you aren't on. So to Cliffy B's point, and that's also ties in perfectly. These games aren't on Twitch very long, right? Like they have a small window of zeitgeist to get all the sales that they can. And then once you get past that window, it's like you're kind of, there's not a lot of second win for games like that. The kids these days, they're not focused on graphics and production values and even really narratives, and which is kind of sad for a lot of us that kind of grew up on that stuff because they
not really. I'm happy about that. I actually
I'll say I like all of it. I play games more for the fun factor than I do for
exactly.
Graphics. And the kids these days do as well. They are more focused on finding the fun than they are on showing their friends what their machine can do. That's what I want. I could not wait to bring.
That's where Palworld comes in, because that's exactly what's happening right now. Listen, guys, real quick. This conversation is amazing. We have one more topic. I mean, it's a mismatched show, folks. It's conversational podcasting at its best. Let me catch up on Super Chats, and I do have a commercial to run because I remembered this time.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I want to get to it. But Jonas the Dad drops a very generous $2 Super Chat and says, PlayStation fans, Xbox compete. Xbox, okay. PlayStation fans, I want that. And he's not wrong. I really think it's just so ridiculous. Sir X-Men, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $2 Super Chat and says, a $30 game making more than a $70. They hate that. Yeah, this is actually sold better than Spider-Man 2. Sorry, it has. That's a fact. It's crazy. And again, folks, just for numbers, on Steam alone, as of this evening, they spent under $7 million to make this game. The game has made $210 million on Steam.
Do we know if it's 210 or is that just somebody multiplied 30 times 7 million?
I just think it's because
I don't know if it's actually $30 everywhere. I think it's cheaper in some other countries.
Okay, so listen, I
just want to point that out. I don't know.
No, it's a good point. It's made a lot of money, which is crazy. But we will. This story is going to continue. I think it's going to break records and every record possible.
By next week, it's going to be 10 million.
It's going to be 10 million by next week for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Cypher Type 1 drops a very generous $5 Super Chat and says, people having an aneurysm over Palworld copying Pokemon when there are literally thousands of genres of games called Metrovania and Soulsborne.
Fantastic fact.
Fantastic point, brother. Can't argue that. 80s cartoon villain who's been a channel member for 5 months. First of all, love the name, brother, and thank you for the generosity. He says, with all of these games coming out from Microsoft needing to be Microsoft needing to be strategically released, could we be looking at no release dates being a normal thing? I mean, it's interesting. That's an interesting theory.
So I think the reason they do that is if it's too far, in other words, more than 3 or 4 months out, they just don't want to lock it down because you just don't know.
You just don't know. Yeah.
You don't know what else the roadmap of other developers is either. Like there's to me, there's no point. I back in the day, you wanted to get your date out there because you needed people to pre-order stuff. Now that we're entering the digital age, I don't really. I think it's fair for for people to be annoyed by that who are used to getting dates and stuff. But I personally have no problem with them just holding back and saying, let's find the right window for this. And as we get closer and we know what the best openings are, we'll fit it in there. And if we need to hold a game back a year, maybe they go, hey, there's too much stuff loaded up here when we're about going to be ready.
Push it out.
Let's keep polishing getting it.
This is a different world with Game Pass because now it's really just getting that continuous cycle of games every couple of months, right? Every month or two.
If they have a game that needs to bake a little bit more, they can make a third-party deal like Palworld is a perfect example of that, and get it in there, and people are just as happy as if it was first party.
Think about God of War delayed, Last of Us delayed, Last of Us 2 delayed, Ghost of Tsushima delayed. Delaying a game is not the end of the world.
No,
and think about Jedi Survivor, one of my favorite games of last year. If they had delayed it 2 weeks, we wouldn't have had the rough launch that it had. Nobody
Cyberpunk, Halo Infinite should have been delayed another year.
Forza Motorsport could have used another 6 months. So so the AI doesn't run you off the track on the first turn every time.
No, it's definitely. Listen, there's. I put it this way. The advantage that Microsoft has over the entire industry, and I'm talking about even the other publishers, even like the Take-Twos and the EAs and the PlayStation and Nintendo, is they currently have 34 plus studios. That's named studios, and they're in the hunt for more. And the more that they keep adding, the more that they could take a chance and let a game cook like it's supposed to, because they have literally so many games in the pipeline. That's the most important aspect of it. Gamers Play HUD Zero, who's been a channel member for, holy cow, 27 months. He says this: good evening, Boom and Panel, as well as the awesome Gamers Nation. Yes, Palworld is now my world. This needs to be put on more platforms, but Xbox. And I got to be honest with you. Craftopia still not on PlayStation. I don't think it's going to be on PlayStation, and I think there's something to be said about potentially keeping this to yourself, kind of like what Sony does. I'm sorry, I just think they need to do that. We're going to get into whether, because the next super chat actually kind of is going to lead into our conversation. Now, I had said in the beginning that the Xbox Korea was bundling this game with the Series S. Now, according to Alduin in the chat, who drops a very generous $5 super chat, just heads up, Palworld isn't being bundled. The Korean Xbox News, who tweeted it out, later found out it was fake and it was just a mock-up. So if in fact that's the case, it's going to be a great conversation that we're going to have to close out the show, because they need to Xbox needs, they're $1 trillion company. They need to get working. We'll get to that in a second. Fantas Archer drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, we all understand disingenuous takes towards Xbox content. Make a statement. A certain PlayStation YouTuber made saying we're running out of ammo. P-World equals ammo. Yeah, I mean, it's the truth, and it's very disappointing, J Mac drops a very generous $5 super chat, says Microsoft is not looking for love. They're just becoming undeniable. I believe that is a very true statement. RC Polygons drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, I believe if Xbox changes the narrative I believe if Xbox changed the narrative is to keep arguing, keep acquiring big franchises like GTA, Red Dead, BioShock, collect so many big franchises under their belt and make it impossible for sites to be negative. I mean, I just think that their games are going to be hitting like a ton of bricks, and I think that they're. I mean, listen, Hellblade, it is going to be a game of the year conversation. I think Avowed is going to be a game of the year conversation. I think Indiana Jones is going to be a game of the year conversation. Now, maybe they're not all your games. Maybe you wanted third person, you got first person, you're not happy. Maybe Avowed, the swinging of the swords isn't hitting for you. That's fine. But these games are going to hit, and they're going to hit well. And the gaming media, like cowards, are going to bend the knee eventually. They absolutely will. Sir X-Man drops an additional $2 super chat and says, everyone, no question, everyone split second or Blur, which one? It's split second. I love Blur, but split second, as you can tell by
second.
Yeah, by leaps and bounds. Mind you, folks, if you're this is split second. It's an Xbox 360 game, and it looks this good. Crazy, just crazy. Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Hargeet, politics show people can ignore a lot. LOL. So listen, real quick, gentlemen, and obviously we have still almost 700 people here. Double Barrel Gaming, as you know, small channel. So we like working with small companies. Now, granted, I don't think anyone's knocking on our door that's a conglomerate that want to work with this channel. It's fine. But last year, towards the end of the year, I was contacted by the fine folks at Valari Gaming Pillow, and they wanted to know if I would, represent their product. So, of course, I needed to find out whether or not the product actually worked. And I was gifted a Iron Lords podcast, a Valari gaming pillow. And as you know, I have back problems. It's what cost me my career, folks. I'm surgically repaired. I'm kind of like Wolverine, except I don't have claws and I'm not indestructible. And sometimes, holding the controller hunched over, it bothers my back and it makes gaming really not comfortable. Well, I tried the pillow and it literally changed my life. Honestly, it does work. I use it all the time. Like I said, I was gifted the pillow by King David. It's amazing. And well, we decided to work with the company. So thanks to the incredible talents of Sean Labrie, I had a commercial made up, and I'd like to play that for you right now. So please check it out. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, you can go to obviously the channel. We have it listed there, Valari Gaming Pillow. You can check that on Google. Take you right to the website. If you type in the code DBG15 at checkout, you will get 15% off of your whole order. And like I said, you should definitely check it out. It works. It's a gaming pillow that I did not think I needed in my life, and actually it works and it's phenomenal. So again, when you go to checkout, type in the code DBG15 at checkout, and you'll get 15% off of your entire order. Thank you so much for checking that commercial out. And let's continue the show. Listen, we got about 35 minutes, give or take, for the end of the show before we do outros. There's one question that I want to ask the panel. There's one question I want to ask the chat. Now, obviously, thanks to a super chat, we have learned that the information that was put out on the socials was the fact that we were made to believe that Xbox Korea was bundling Palworld with the Series S and it was flying off shelves. Now, obviously, whether that is obviously, fake or somewhat of a stretch of the truth. Hargeet, I want to go to you first on this. Palworld it released Friday. We are now on Wednesday. It has sold 7 million copies. It is a Xbox console exclusive. It runs pretty damn good on a Series S. It probably runs even better on a Series X. I've played it. Like I said, I have to change some settings, but I cannot wait to get back to it. Are we at a position? Is Xbox at a position? I kind of feel like they're sitting on their hands here. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. Like, obviously, I love everything Xbox is doing, but this is a zeitgeist moment. I don't know how long it takes to put advertising together. I mean, they're a $3 trillion company. I'm sure that they can figure it out. Someone somewhere, especially in the Asian region where they have failed notoriously over the course of the last 2 decades, they need to get on board with this. We need to start seeing advertising and commercials to bundle this game with a console, because this is going to move the needle when it comes to consoles in a region that you have failed. This is one of those games, Hargeet, that the masses, anyone is talking and playing about this game. Now, maybe not everyone's going to like it as much as the next person, but you'll get someone to get up and buy a console. And maybe people will stay on PC. Fine. But you have an opportunity to sell consoles. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, look, I mean, the clean, normal way they do it is you actually have the console with a digital code built into it, right? And then that's how you'll get the game. They don't have to do that. They could just do a retail bundle, and that's really just talking to their partners, whoever the resellers are in a given region, and just create a bundle, right? And then start selling it and advertise the hell out of it. What they need to take advantage of these moments. Hopefully, they realize they should take advantage of the moment. There's plenty of things to do here. First, start working with that company and the studio to see what the next steps are, right? They also need to scale to be able to meet the demand that they're getting. And can they just do that on their own? Maybe, right? They just got an influx of cash, but they might need help to understand how to do that, how to scale to that level, because that's not, an easy thing for an indie studio to do, right? And that's something that, as far as expertise, Xbox could bring in. As far as selling, this is a general strategy you can have with just retailers. Just say, hey, we're going to bundle it in. But the problem is, this is a digital-only game. So how do you really do that, right? You can't take a physical copy and just bundle it together. So they'd have to work that piece out, right? Normally, when you buy a bundled system, it actually is just, as I said, it was a code built into the box. You just log into the box and it says, hey, there's an entitlement on this box. Do you want to use it on your current account or some other account? And it'll take the game and put it on that account. That would be tougher to do because now you're changing the actual SKU, right? So that becomes a little bit more challenging, right? So I don't know how they would do that rapidly. I'm sure they could figure it out. I did want to take one moment to talk about something that both Luke and OBM, you came up with, which is this sort of market shift thing that's happening where kids don't necessarily care about graphics. Like, I've been screaming this, that we keep going down this rabbit hole that Sony started in the PS3 generation to try to gain market share back, to say, hey, we're going to make these high quality, very cinematic games. Cool. And that kind of kept going through PS4 gen. But as you scale that up and keep going up and up and up, it just becomes improbable for it to make its money back. And now they're hitting a wall, right? And what Microsoft's doing is saying, hey, like Avowed to me does not feel AAA. I think it's kind of a AA-ish game, right? But that's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be AAA, right? You could take a couple of games in your library and make them AAA, go all out, but the rest don't have to be. Hellblade to me also feels kind of AA. Does it matter? It looks good enough, right? And so you could just take like that. How many people was it? 40 people or something that made made Hellblade?
Well, Hellblade 1 was actually 16 people.
But Hellblade 2
1. Now, Hellblade 2, I think it's 40.
Yeah, right. So that's definitely not a AAA level number of developers, right? Does it matter? Right? I like changing that concept is what needs to happen, right? And why Palworld is so cool is you don't need to have that many people, right? Like Sony's way was saying, let's take this and take our prestigious, like ridiculously high, award-winning studios and make them make live games. Or you go find somebody passionate enough to go do something like Palworld and just say, how much is that? A couple million? Here you go. and just see what happens, right? Maybe it'll go, maybe it won't. Versus 200 million. How much do you think they wasted over the last 3-4 years trying to make Factions 2? That just got thrown away.
That was 3 years of development. It might have even been more.
Right? I would think it's more. I'm sure they were working in parallel while making the main game, right? To try to figure out what Factions was going to be. That's what they were saying. It was going to launch at the same time, and then they said no, it's going to launch later, and it was going to be part of the same game. Then they said no, it's going to be its own game, right? They've been working on that probably for 5-6 years, and what did they get out of it? Nothing, right? Because look, it's not easy to do those kind of things. If that investment was $7 million, you're like, okay, fine. What if that investment is $150 million? How do you make that back? Right. And that's kind of the thing that they're starting to run into. And the industry is now realizing that the Sony model of making games look ridiculously good, it's kind of reached its peak. And you're now going to have to scale back. And you're going to get more AA type games. You're going to get more indie games that are really going to take the zeitgeist. That's what's going to happen. Right. This Palworld's coming out of nowhere is doing that. Right. And so I agree, Boom, they should take advantage of it 100%. How they'll do that, I don't know. Because it's not a physical game, it's going to require them to make a digital bundle, which I don't know how they easily do that, right? So, because then it would be a SKU change, a box change. I mean, over maybe the next 6 weeks, they could probably do that. I think that's like the amount of time it takes to kind of change what you're manufacturing, right? So, they could potentially pull it off, but by then, will they have missed the window? Right? This is just one of those tough things.
I don't think so, though. I mean, I put it to this way: if making like a box art for this, I told you can't just do that overnight, but you got to start running commercials, man. You got to let people know that this is available on your box, and it's only on Xbox.
And that's the easier thing. Absolutely, they should just do that, right? So market the heck out of it. It's a Japanese game. Put it out there. It's a Japanese game running on our console. 10 million players, whatever it is, right? And just start marketing the heck out of it, and get people to start playing, right? And if they want to play on PC, why not? Fine, that's great. But if they want to play on a console, here, and then make a nice little a sale of the Series S and say, hey, play Palworld. I don't know, whatever the equivalent in Japanese yen would be for like $210 or whatever it is, right? Whatever that comes out to in yen. Just make it really cheap so people just go in and try to buy it, right? What the heck? It just boost sales. And the Series S seems to do well in Japan anyway, right? So
yes, it does.
What the heck? Like just go for it. Put it on massive discount. Let's see how many sales you get out of it, right? What the heck, right? I agree they should do something, especially in Asia. If it's going to take anything, like this is an Asian game, take advantage, take advantage of it, right? And see what you get out of it. But yeah, I like doing the bundle thing. It's going to be somewhat difficult to do. If this was a physical release, you could easily do it. But unfortunately, with a digital release, it's going to be kind of tough. That is going to be an interesting thing going forward too, right?
Because this is in Game Pass. They can go crazy by marketing a Game Pass.
Just Game Pass, absolutely, right? And heck, they could do a marketing campaign that says "Play Palworld right now." Upcoming Hellblade, upcoming Indiana Jones, upcoming Visions of Mana. And I don't know if it's going to come to Game Pass or not. But,
I think it is. And I keep hearing that, but
those are the things to do, right? Just start marketing those kind of things and say, hey, look, we've got your content, like the Japanese content, we've got Western content, all in Game Pass. Pay your $16.99 and whatever that comes out to in yen or in South Korean or whatever currency, right? Yeah, I totally agree. They should do something. And should they do it in the US? Maybe. Yeah, it's a viable thing to do here. I think Europe is where they should start really looking, because that's where they're still woefully behind, right?
Yeah, they're getting clobbered there. No, it's true.
Start looking there. Yeah.
I have good stuff all around. Luke, let's get your hot take on this. How do you think they should approach this? Again, this is one of those rare moments in gaming where the zeitgeist right now, and it seems like it's going to be for quite some time, is Palworld. Xbox got taken advantage of this, man. I understand that it's not only about selling boxes, right? Totally get that. If you're going to try and sell your service, which is what they should be trying to sell as well as their boxes, they have a hit that's only available on one console. We understand it's on PC, but it's a console exclusive for Xbox. It's a really big deal.
This is where I think if able, you put the Activision Blizzard King element to good use. Can you get a crossover or ad running alongside Call of Duty Mobile? A lot of games run on mobile games run on timers where if you watch an ad, you get X or Y. Put it there. Put it in a mobile space in Candy Crush and Call of Duty Mobile, and showcase this game to the people that are not your demographic. See if this gets them in. There's a reason that this has jumped out ahead and getting all of this traction and love. And it will boost Xbox, but now you have a chance to put a Series X ad next to Palworld on your mobile space. That's why you bought Activision Blizzard King. We tend to think it's Call of Duty, but we know that mobile is also a big part of that. Put the ad there. Put a Palworld ad and a Series S ad next to one another. Roll out stuff to GameStop because they tend to have faster marketing that's a bit more tuned in on this type of front than say like your Walmart, your Target. And just have the flyer, Palworld next to Series S. That's the biggest thing you can do is take the successful brand, Palworld, and associate it with the cheapest barrier to entry, the Series S. The only hiccup I see in this, and I don't think there's a lot of weight to it, but are the potential legal ramifications that Palworld is going to face between AI and Pokemon and whoever else, whatever else. Xbox has not shied down from legal ramifications before. I certainly don't think there's a lot to stand on as far as Palworld is concerned in general, but that might be the only thing that slows down any effort. But I think we'd be foolish to underestimate bean counters at the $1 trillion company to say that they don't see the potential here. Apple's the number one company in the world in terms of money. Yeah, exactly. Like Xbox and Microsoft, they know, they're aware.
Yeah, I'm sure they're talking about this already.
Yeah,
and I think Luke, to what you were pointing out before, is the streamers, right? The people who play games on Twitch or whatever it is, right? They should just get on top of that to make sure that this is being, and it probably is already. I don't know if it already is.
Yeah,
but they should definitely get on top of that kind of thing, right? To what you were saying before.
Absolutely, and don't force it. Find the streamers that care, that want that content. The best voices are the ones that actually want to do it. Like Suicide Squad is a great example of this. They put out a bunch of stuff from people that don't care or even know about the game. But as a jaded member of the very proud Marvel's Avenger community, that's right, I loved that game. It was not great, and I still had a blast.
It was good, yeah.
The single player aspect was really
just
good.
the main
story
campaign
was excellent. It
was
really
good.
was. The multiplayer and the egregious pricing and the stupid boxes you had to open up and find Hulk pants. It was just dumb. Yeah, that ruined it. But the story itself was really good. I quite enjoyed it.
I played a lot of that game, but the reason I bring up that very painful memory of my hundreds of hours in that game, it was that the community around it, because we only had ourselves, they got very invested in it, and that community's gravitated towards Suicide Squad. So I've watched them be very excited about a game I'm really worried about. They should have been the ones showcasing it. The Xbox, the content creators that are out there that care about Xbox, some of them make Sea of Thieves content, but they're familiar with Xbox for a good reason. They should be talking. They should be the ones that Xbox is courting. You don't need Shroud, because does Shroud care about Xbox? No. But if you go to some of the more prominent Sea of Thieves or Grounded streamers that have a vested, connective, tangential interest in the benefit of an Xbox studio, that's who you should be talking to.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely right.
Too much?
It makes phenomenal sense. And I hope that they are taking your advice and potentially doing that now, because, again, this is one of those games. The streamers are eating this up, and the people watching are eating it up as well. I mean, great take, a phenomenal take. Let's get One Bad Mother's hot take on here, folks. One Bad Mother, where do you kind of sit with the action that should or should not be taken by Xbox? Again, they did not know, or like Hargeet said, maybe they did know, because remember, this was announced pretty close to its release that it was in Game Pass.
Yeah.
So maybe, because Sarah Bond is a big proponent of getting these games in Xbox Game Pass. She does a lot of legwork. She is back and forth to Japan quite often last year. She had to know that this was going to be a big deal, at least in her opinion. And they seem to have strict, to hit pay dirt, so to speak. Where do they go with this? How do they take advantage of this to sell consoles, to sell Xbox Game Pass?
Yeah, well, first, I think there's some great points made, and I think you guys took one of my leading thoughts on this, and that was with the streamers. We just got done talking about, got done talking about what my kids and girlfriends' kids and their friends and all that, how they respond, and they don't really respond as much to the retail scene that we do, because they're not in, they don't go to GameStop and stand there and look at, the shelves like we did when we were kids, right? Or, wherever we would see like kiosks and things like that. What they respond to is those streamers. And the thing I will agree with, though, this is a unique opportunity. Again, probably not something Microsoft even themselves had any anticipation was going to get this big. This is like kind of wild. So, a lot of the gamers like ourselves are pretty firmly set in terms of where our primary ecosystems are, whether we would be willing to, be in a second ecosystem or not. The ones that don't have that loyalty is that like that next generation, right? Your Fortnite gamers, the next generation of those types of gamers. And this is probably the type of thing that they're going to be seeing. If they haven't seen it already, they're going to be seeing this streaming, their favorite streamers playing this type of game. And yeah, absolutely. That is probably Microsoft's best opportunity, is to make sure that they can somehow work with the developers and these streamers to try to bring some awareness to, hey, this is in our ecosystem. This is on Game Pass. If you if they do have a bundle, kind of that's I think where you eventually make them aware. As far as bundles, though, I think, like to Hargey's point, I think that it's going to take a little bit of time to put together, to even arrange it, to make sure all that stuff's set up, even on the Series S. And usually I would say like a bundle like this probably is going to have its best impact around the holidays. So, usually your casual gamers, those types of people that are going to respond to a Series S Palworld bundle are more likely than not going to be, those purchases are going to be made after Black Friday. So I think this I don't see this going anywhere, though. So I think that will be an opportunity for them later this year. I don't know about in Eastern markets, though, because in Eastern markets, the consoles are almost not on store shelves anymore. They're almost not in store shelves in some areas in Western markets now. So, retail is scaling back a lot of what they're doing with consoles. And I think it is a difficult market to crack. But if you're going to take one last swing at that stuff to build that audience, Palworld is probably a really good opportunity, because a lot of the stuff that we're really excited about, like Obsidian's game, whether you're excited about Hellblade or Indiana Jones, that is the target markets for that are people that generally know where they want to play, right? They're generally very well aware of things. This caters to a totally different audience. I think it would be very interesting in the East. I think in the East, probably their opportunity is going to be on PC Game Pass. Like, can you bring those two together? Obviously, they got to get their PC version up to speed, equal to Steam's, which I know they're in the process of. But once they do, that's really, I think, one of the best opportunities to bring some mind share to that, because in the East, their growth isn't really going to be on console going forward. It's probably
going to be on PC more than
PC,
likely. Yeah,
and maybe down the road cloud. As in some markets. Like I think some of the Korean markets actually are gravitating towards that stuff more than we do here. So, and that's, a lot of it has to do with just infrastructure. But yeah, I think there definitely is going to be an opportunity. It is something that's very unique, and it's something that they don't have anything big. We talked about all the diversity that they have in terms of things that they can align with Game Pass, with their subscription, with their ecosystem. The show that they had great diversity. They brought in Square, which is nice, but in general, Square fans are on other platforms, and they have established that over decades, right? So that's not really something you're going to move the needle on. This is probably the first thing that they have that, at least for some time, is going to be could be associated with their brand if they work with the developers that are smart on it. So absolutely should. It'll be interesting. I'm not really. I can't really criticize them right now because this just happened, and big machines like them move slow. So I think it's going to take some time, but there's definitely going to be an opportunity in 2024 to expand their ecosystem, to expand it mind share to people that otherwise really don't even think about it. And PC Game Pass is really still a significant opportunity.
It's doing very well for them. I don't think they realized I don't think they anticipated how well it's actually doing for them. It is doing quite well.
The bulk of the Game Pass is still on console. Like I think the leak came out, or an analyst came out, was a couple weeks ago, said 33 million is about, which is kind of like what's been rumored over. It's been rumored that they would pass 30 for a while, and it's also been sort of kind of working some things backwards that Warren and others have said. I think they're probably around 25 million on console. So they're making progress on PC. Like they talked about, like the growth is, the biggest growth they've ever had. But, they're also starting with a smaller base, and they're starting to make some inroads there. It's still, in general, PC gamers would rather give up gaming than leave Steam a lot of times. But I think, maybe in some markets that Eastern markets, things like that, there might be some opportunity. So, I think that there's it'll be interesting to see if they can use this to grow it there more than even their first party, this year, especially in those markets where they don't have a presence.
No, I mean, it's good stuff. Look, at the end of the day, this isn't a console war dig. The truth of the matter is PlayStation is in a bit of a pickle. We all see it, right? You can say whatever you want. You can say, oh, it's console warring. It's not. It's facts. Xbox has put themselves in a position where they are hitting on all cylinders. Nintendo, we don't worry about Nintendo. You know why? Because they just know how to do it. And they have a console releasing with probably 3 games, maybe even a 4th. Okay, the rumor is a new Mario in 3D, which is not surprising. Supposedly F-Zero is in development. I hope that's true because I'm an F-Zero freak. And of course, Metroid Prime 4. You release those 3 games with your new console, you're going to stop the industry in their tracks. Whether it is an upgraded console, whether it's a semi-upgrade, it's not going to matter. We're all going to go out and buy it. I know I'm good for 3. One for me, one for Mrs. Boom, one for Tyler.
And there's likely a Mario Kart coming because they're due for that. There's likely a Smash. They're due for that.
A lot.
There's a lot of potentials.
If you're excited if you're a Nintendo freak like me, you'll be excited. I'm super excited. PlayStation is on their back feet, folks. I'm sorry, they're on their heels. There's a reason why we don't know what's happening in 24 because they don't know what is happening in 24. That is the truth. That is not console warring. It's facts. And the truth of the matter is that if they don't tell us what they're doing, we're not going to know. I'm sorry to say remakes and remasters are just not the answer. And again, I expect the gaming media to do their job and give them the business the same way that if this was Microsoft doing it, they would be bent over a barrel. I'm sorry. That's just the facts. But look, at the end of the day, this was an amazing show. I like these smaller panels. Everyone was able to get their bars in. We went here, there, and everywhere. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation enough. Hit the like button. If you're new, and I saw a lot of new faces here, please consider subscribing. Mrs. Boom and I are on the hunt for 15K. I think we're going to be able to get that this year. I'd love to see a little bit more than that, to be honest with you. I'd like to finish off the year with 17K would be amazing. But we'll start small. We're at 14.1 now. We are a few away from 14.2, which means that we'll be under 800 away from obviously hitting 15K, which would be a big deal. A big thank you to all of the super chats and all of the channel members that continue to support the brand, because obviously it's something that Mrs. Boom and I do, and it allows us to do the big giveaways. And we have a big giveaway coming, which we thought was going to be the first quarter of this year. It turns out it's going to be in September. We are giving away 15 copies of Stalker 2, which we're buying at full price. And we're going to give them away live on the air. And obviously we can't do any of those big giveaways unless we have the support from the community when you have been supporting us. And we do greatly appreciate that. Let's get to the outros. Now, obviously, Luke Lore, we got to sell your brand, because the Xbox expansion pass is a phenomenal place to get some of the best industry interviews in the business. You have it on Spotify, a few other places, I would imagine. Please sell your brand. Where could people check that out? Help you grow what I think is an incredible piece of gaming entertainment that you do on a regular basis. And more importantly, where could people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media?
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to come on, Boom. I thank you so much, man. I'm honored. I will say, first and foremost, guys, my goal with XEP this year is to for Logan and I to go to FanFest, and that means plane tickets and everything else. And so I'll ask you to check out XEP and consider supporting us over on Patreon. Listen, I've interviewed Seamus Blackley, the designer of the original Xbox. I've interviewed
You sure did.
The developer, the game. Yep. Game directors behind Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Grounded. Just had Cliff Blazinski on just 2 days ago. And I'm talking to Steven Totillo next week about Axios and GameFile and how the games media has changed. I will ask him about Xbox tax. And I would love to have your support by both checking out the Xbox expansion pass on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And then, you know, if you're willing and able, consider sending us to FanFest this year at patreon.com/Xbox expansion pass. Means the absolute world, because like you, we love games. I love games, and I love shedding light into that gaming world. So if you're willing to check it out, I'd be honored, guys. Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, drop a link in the chat, brother. Throw it in the chat and let people subscribe right here live on the air, dude. Go ahead and do that. Super appreciate you being here, Luke.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Do that so we can get you get some people to check out your work, because you do amazing work, brother. You really do, and you gotta get credit for it. Some of these interviews are just tip of the spear, in my opinion. Hargi Chani, let's sell, well, not your social media brand, because, well, there isn't in one. He has no, like Mrs. Boom, no
That's
thumbprint.
so smart, Hargi. Your mental health is so much
literally
better
the smartest thing he's ever done. But he does, in fact, represent our very good friends from Game On Daily, of course, Asa and Gaz, Mr. Septic Sauce himself. They do a great job each and every week. It is scandalous. It is pointed. Sometimes it's very testy, but it's a lot of fun. It's content that I enjoy watching. Please sell their brand. And where could people reach out to you if they wanted to strike up a conversation? Because you're not going to find them on social media, but there are two other places.
Yeah, so H Chani on Xbox and on Discord. And then, so check out GameOnDaily.com and YouTube.com/GameOnDaily, and check out Gaz's channel, Septic Sauce, for all the fun that's going to be happening. This is going to be a fun year, and Gaz is already, having a lot of fun with what's happening with a lot of the announcements and a lot of the fun that the PlayStation, and I guess at this point even Nintendo fans are getting a little testy, but at least the PlayStation side, he's been going all out with that. And then, I'm also a part of Fonz's Games Talk Live podcast on Sundays at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. So check that out on Fonz Gaming channel. And I don't know, at some point maybe we'll have RDX. See, whenever dealer is feeling up to it, we'll hopefully come back and we'll get that back. But yeah, otherwise next week right here, we'll reconvene and talk about all the fun things that are happening. And I thought there was a little news bit about Sony's doing the same things Xbox is doing.
Oh, you mean them possibly going third parties, which you're talking about?
Mobile,
anything with the computing.
I heard that from someone before. Who said that? Who?
We're going to be talking.
You gotta love how like Xbox leads the way for what PlayStation is going to do 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it's funny. We're going to be talking about that on Friday morning's breakfast at Boom. I have
see if I'm available.
I'm consistently highlighting the CEO said a lot of things that sounded like they were going third party, but we will we will cross that line.
And Luke jumped out. Where'd he go?
I don't know, but
I was gonna just say thanks for jumping in, Luke, and thanks for jumping in, OBM.
Here he is. He's back. There's
Luke. There we go. Yeah, I was gonna say thanks for jumping in, Luke. Nice
Luke, I dropped your link in there twice already. So
is this the first time we've been on a podcast together, Luke? I think it is, right?
I think so. I think it might be.
It is, and it's been a pleasure to chat with you and get to know you. Man. I really enjoyed it.
Shout out to Special Nick of the Xbox era.
Oh, Nick! Nick, it's been a while. I mean,
Nick. Yeah, I know he's been there for a while. Nick, I love you, brother. Thanks so much for being here. We got to get you on the show at some point, or I got to be on Xbox.
I want to be at the same time Nick comes on because, somebody's got to fact check the Australians.
Yeah, he gets a lot right though. I gotta be honest with you. I'm kind of a fan. One Bed Mother, listen, we know that you are currently your YouTube channel has not officially launched. You're working on it. I cannot wait to help you promote that the minute it's launched. But please, where can people reach out to you on social media, potentially strike up a conversation, and what else you got going on?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you again, Boom. Thank you, and it's been awesome being here today with you and the guests. Congratulations, Luke, again, and hopefully we can get a lot more subscribers there because your content absolutely deserves it.
Phenomenal.
When I was at Xbox Era, I used to scour through some of his stuff for information because there is stuff that comes out. When you talk to developers, especially when you ask them a lot of questions, you can learn a lot about the industry. So, and there is a lot to learn about the industry right now, and in fun things too with where it's going. It's a lot of change, and I think a lot more good than negative, despite some of the anxiety that we kind of hear in all pockets. Really, there's a lot of things I think on the horizon that's just going that, at least from a consumer standpoint. I can't speak for anybody in the world in terms of jobs and things like that, but from a consumer standpoint, I think there's a lot of exciting things coming up. So look forward to talking about some of that stuff. And I know it's been a while, but we'll get that going. Follow me on Twitter, mother_1, MUTHA_ONE for now. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys again soon. So great seeing you tonight.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We had a ton of people here today. I believe it was closer to almost 700 people. It might have been over 700, to be honest with you. And I can't thank you enough for checking out the show. Obviously, this show was one of those shows that we only had a handful of people show up, and now look where there's been some times we've actually broken over 1,000, and we can't thank you enough for the incredible support. And again, obviously, a big thank you to all of the super chats as well as the channel memberships. They do power the show in a big way. And of course, I'm going to close out today's show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.